Hello, Alan Rowland again, and I want to take you back to Mississippi. We've been there on two different occasions. First time we had a little 15-minute episode that dealt with Emmett Till, and we had another one with Medgar Evers. So we're going to go back to Mississippi and discuss a different period of time, different days anyway, and slightly the period of time we're going to go to is in 1964. This is the time where many people refer to as Freedom Summer. Quite a bit different today than it was back in those times there. And the setting for this is going to be in a place in central parts of Mississippi, which is called Philadelphia, Mississippi, Neshoba County. Neshoba County. All right, so I want to show you some videos here and some visuals. And we'll go to my camera here. Give me just a second. And showing you the map here of Mississippi. And notice here what is highlighted in red that I had covered with my finger just a second ago. And incidentally, I'm going to try to get this video in, and maybe 2 episodes. I'm only limited to 15 minutes. Sorry, I'm going to go back to myself for just a second. I'm only limited to 15 minutes on my contract that I have. Otherwise, I have to buy something that's much more expensive with that. And so anyway, and here I am wasting time with it, so it'll probably go into 2 different parts. But let's go back to the map of Mississippi. And as I began this, as I've told you before, Mississippi has a lot of history. And by the way, I'm not being negative on Mississippi because it's one of my favorite states. Right next to my home state of Alabama. Spent a lot of time in Mississippi. I worked there for a while, so I know it fairly well. And if you look at the highlighted area, this is what you're seeing right here. This is Neshoba County. Notice it's shaped roughly like a square, maybe a rectangular, roughly a square. Central parts of Mississippi. There we go. So you have an idea of the area that we're talking about. Now, and one other key issue before I move on here, and sorry to jerk that away from me. If you see Philadelphia here, and here is Meridian. Now, Meridian's a rather large town. The road that connects Meridian up here to Philadelphia is Highway 19. For the most part, it's a 4-lane road today. It was not during the times that we're talking about of 1964. All right, now 2 opposing groups, if you want to call them opposing, and they are opposing, there's no question about that. And one of these groups is known as the Congress of Racial Equality. People just commonly refer to it as CORE. It became active in the 1940s, I believe it was, and by the 1950s, 1960s, it was quite active there. One of the individuals I remember associated with it, a person by the name of Stokely Carmichael. You may be familiar with them. Alrighty, now look at the name here, Congress of Racial Equality, and that's what they're stressing there. Congress of Racial Equality, eliminate Jim Crow laws, allow for voter registration, education of African Americans, particularly in the poor South, in the poverty-stricken rural areas of the South. And the opposition to this is an organization which is known as the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, or most commonly just referred to as the Ku Klux Klan, or very simply as the KKK. Now, during this time in Mississippi, and you'll also find that today, if you get into the countryside, into the rural communities, you'll find that these small, poverty-stricken communities are largely 80%, 90% African American. And it was that way during the times of the 1950s and 1964. And for many, particularly the Congress of Racial Equality, they were demanding more rights for blacks, particularly voter registration rights. And for many of these whites that were in those communities, they were quite opposed to this. The reason being is that the governments, the sheriff's office, the deputies, the judicial system was largely white. And so if you had African American voters and their 80% of the population are African Americans, this means that they would vote in, pro African American, pro-black justice systems there. And I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm not saying that's right, but for many in the white community, they were quite against this. The Ku Klux Klan population in Mississippi was known to be at least 10,000. In 1964 alone, there had been 61 Ku Klux Klan rallies to take place just in that year before. So we have 2 opposing sides here. All right, now, in about this period of time, 1964, CORE organized a movement, and this was called Freedom Summer, in which they would send social workers largely northern social workers, young people, college-age individuals, many of them were social work graduates, and send them to the South, to assist African Americans, teach them to read and write, educate them a little bit, and promote voter registration. As you might suspect, in 1964, this is going to create a real problem in Mississippi, and in other areas too, but in primarily Mississippi. So let's go back to our visuals here, and I want to show you a couple of photographs of this period of time. Now, these are all core workers here, the whites are anyway, and you can see them working with African-American young lady there, uniting arms here. Like I said, most from the north coming south, going to be very distressful to a lot of Southerners. Here's another photograph from that period of time, showing you some of the freedom workers here, freedom summer workers here, and just assisting out in the black community. All of these photographs taken in Mississippi itself. Here's another photograph here, typical of that period of time, the dress of that period of time too. The opposition to this was a Ku Klux Klan rally, took place in Natchez, Mississippi, roughly around 1964, around that period of time. I'm not in Natchez, Mississippi, because I can remember this, seeing the Klan in Alabama. I certainly was no part of that, but that's that was present, and honestly was. All right, now, three individuals I want to make you acquainted with. These three individuals here, and I'll talk just a little bit about these. I'll show you photographs, several photographs of them, in just a minute here. One individual is Michael Schwerner. People refer to him as Mickey. His age was 25 years of age. He was Jewish. Married to his wife, Rita. They were very close with each other. And he would be recruited, Michael and Mickey Schwerner would be recruited by John Lewis. Some of you may be familiar with John Lewis, a congressman for many, many years, a civil rights worker, activist. And he was recruited, Mickey Schwerner, to come to the South, to go to Meridian, Mississippi, and to set up a core field office there, a core center to assist in voter registration, just assist African Americans there. For Mickey Schwerner, he would have been educated at Cornell. He attended graduate school in Columbia, graduated in social work, and they came to Meridian, Mississippi with his wife and established themselves there. He was assisted by a local young man, African-American, is James Chaney. James Chaney, 21 years of age. He was from Meridian. If you go to Meridian today, you can drive the James Chaney Highway, if you wish to do so. It's roughly the road that leads from Meridian up to Philadelphia. And a third individual is Andrew Goodman. Andrew Goodman, he was also from New York. He was 20 years of age. He was Jewish, younger than the others anyway. Here's a likeness of the individuals. And you can see over here, this is Mickey Schwerner over on this side. Then we have James Chaney, age 21. And then the young man here, Andrew Goodman, who was age 20. All right, so those are the individuals that are involved in this. So we'll take yourself to that time now. We have all of this core activity trying to establish themselves in the African-American communities to assist them and so forth. Now, two other individuals that bear mentioning here, and to get this off of the screen here, was the sheriff of Neshoba County. His name was Lawrence Rainey. I'll show you a photograph. I'll show you a photograph of him right now. This is what he looks like. Here he is wearing the hat right there. He was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. There's no question about that. And he had his deputy with him, and I'll show you a photograph later of the deputy. And the deputy is Cecil Price. Now, let's not get confused on this. This is Neshoba County. This is the sheriff, the deputy sheriff of Neshoba County. Now, the county seat of Neshoba is in Philadelphia. So you would have your own judicial system in Philadelphia, but you'd have that would be under the city, and then you would have the county system of Neshoba. All right, so these are the deputy sheriff, and the sheriff of that time. All right, now, on the 16th of June in 1964, a church burned, and I do not have a photograph of that church. I can tell you the name of it. It was a Mount Zion Methodist Church, and the church was burned. It was burned by white supremacists, burned by the Ku Klux Klan. There's no question about that. Some brutalities were taken out on the parishioners, the worshipers there. Some of them were severely beaten. Church burned to the ground, just like that. It's not present there today as that church is today. All right, now 4 days later, the three individuals that I was talking to about just a second ago, Mickey Schwirmer and James Chaney and Andrew Goodman, had attended a CORE conference in Ohio. And they were returning and passing through Philadelphia when they were made aware that this church had burned. And so they went to this church to investigate what was taking place there. And as they were returning from the church, they were in their car. It's a blue station wagon. I'll show you a photograph of it in the second video. And they were coming back through Philadelphia, and the police, the sheriff and the deputy, and particularly the deputy, were very well aware of this, what they call the CORE vehicle. It was a blue station wagon. And so as the vehicle was passing through Philadelphia, the vehicle was stopped. It was stopped by Cecil Price, the deputy sheriff, and he charged James Chaney. James Chaney was driving the car, and he charged him with speeding. And he took all three of the individuals to the Neshoba County Jail, and he jailed them. This is on a speeding charge by one individual, and James Chaney, and I doubt he was even speeding, he was just pulled over. And the three individuals were placed in jail, and even though it was marked in the jail of what the speeding fine was, Deputy Sheriff Price would not allow them to pay the fine, and he said, you're just going to have to remain here in jail until the justice shows, the judge shows, and you can pay your fine at that time. All right, so anyway, that was the setting for this. Now, Mickey Schwirmer had already notified previously his wife that if he was not back in Meridian or had not heard from him by 4 o'clock, to initiate a search for him. And so anyway, 4 o'clock now passed, and these individuals are in jail. So his wife, Mickey Schwirmer's wife, began to frantically call various police stations trying to locate where these young men were, and it was to no avail. And then finally, at 10 o'clock that night on the 21st of June, finally, Deputy Cecil Price allowed these individuals to go and gave them the admonition, get yourself out of Neshoba County and never show your face there again. And so the individuals departed. And they got in their car and they started driving south on Highway 19, and they got about 7-8 miles out of Philadelphia, and they were being trailed. They were being trailed by two cars. Not exactly sure how many people were in the cars there, probably 6 to 8 individuals in the two cars. Deputy Sheriff Price was in one of those, and trailed them. And they got about 8 miles out of Philadelphia, and then they forced this CORE car to pull over on Highway 515. It's County Road 515, and they went up the road about 250 yards to a little place there, another little cutoff road, which is called Rock Creek Road. All right, now I'm going to stop this video for the time being here, and we're going to pick up the second part of this in just a few minutes here. All righty, thank you.